Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tian Sims, and today I would be discussing social entrepreneurship. Thank you for joining this session, and I look forward to hearing from you. Social entrepreneurs are individuals with innovative solutions to society's most pressing social, cultural, and environmental challenges. They are ambitious and persistent, tackling major issues and offering new ideas for system level change. So, what does that mean? In a nutshell, social entrepreneurs want to change the world. We want to find innovative solutions that are going to be helping our communities, these disenfranchised communities, and also uplifting the society as a whole. So, but before we dive deeper into what is social entrepreneurship, we need to first understand what is the why, right? Because before you can get into what is social entrepreneurship, we need to understand why are we even doing this? What is our purpose? And that is key to understanding what social entrepreneurship does for the entrepreneur and the community that they serve, and as well how it would drive revenue. So, without further ado, let's go into our why. So, what is your why? Understanding what the why is extremely important for social entrepreneurs. The why is the driving force behind the venture. The why drives the mission, the vision of the company. And so understanding your why is absolutely necessary to continue moving forward. So I would give an example about my why and how I started this journey. So I was finishing business school and I was reading an article in Economist. And in the Economist, there was an article about the ex CEO of Nestle, and he wanted to privatize water. And for me, I was just like, why would you do that? Why would anybody want to privatize water? Granted, these things are happening in different forms, but at that time, I wasn't fully aware of that. And it was just like, why would you want to do this? Everybody needs water. And so for me, the next logical step, if you're privatizing water, you are definitely going to privatize air. That just was like, that's the next step. And I started developing water filters and other products for disenfranchised communities to combat this privatization of water. And so that kind of led me onto my journey of wanting to be in the developmental field or some shape or fashion about that, right? And so then I started asking myself different questions. What motivates me? What drives me? What life do I want to live? How do I want to do this? Um, all these different questions about my passion, my energy. Where does my energy get fired up the most from? And so I had a bunch of different lists, and a lot of my lists all came with a couple different themes, overarching themes. And one of the overarching themes was I just don't like inequality and any form of it. And then it was like, okay, I don't like inequality. I like traveling. I'm all for women's rights, climate change, sustainability, learning new cultures. Okay, so how do I shape my career around the things that I like, the things that keep me up at night, the things that gives this feeling of yes, I can do everything, and then some. And so that kind of led me into only looking at jobs for fulfilling those needs. And so then I came upon a job application for this agriculture consultancy position. And a part of the application was if you had 100,000 euros, what program would you implement for smallholder farmers in Nicaragua? Okay, I don't know anything that's going on with their farmers. I didn't know there was an issue. I didn't know any of these things. And so what I've seen was the reoccurring theme of women in agriculture and their lack of resources. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this fits my my values. This fits, right? I'm in for women's rights. I want to improve the livelihoods of these farmers. I can travel to a different country. I can do all of these different things. I'm combating inequality. I'm helping with climate change. Okay, cool. I wrote the proposal. Called it She Farms from the very beginning. And that's how I started my journey of social entrepreneurship. And even though I didn't get the job, and I told them, don't use my proposal because I'm going to use it. And a couple months later, I turned it into a company. And so that's how my why started. And my why really started from knowing different triggers, right? And those triggers helped me identify what my why is and what drives me. So on the next slide, we're going to present with a couple questions that can help you along this journey. So here are some questions that I think is very important for everyone to start thinking about if you're interested in social entrepreneurship, right? And before you make any move on, oh, I want to build this type of company, what are you passionate about? That should really be your first question. Like, what drives you? What wakes you up in the morning? What gives you that undeniable energy that you need? And and it's not something easy to find out unless, especially if you're not looking for it, right? You have to be very intentional about this. So what are you most passionate about? Why? I am a person who. Now ask yourself why, and why is that? And why is that again? Who do I want to become? Why? These are all questions to really understand where your core values are and what are you passionate about. If money was not an issue, what would you do? Why? What kind of life do you truly admire? Why? What experiences make you feel alive? Why? Well, social entrepreneurship provides you with the lifestyle that you want. And then in these questions, you have to be extremely honest with yourself because some people are money driven. And that's okay because you need to have people that are money driven. And you need to have people that care about the world and care about trees and stuff like this. It has to be a balance, right? Everything in moderation. But if you want to be having a certain lifestyle, then you have to be realistic with yourself. Okay, how do I have that lifestyle? What do I need to do to get that lifestyle? So you just have to be extremely honest with yourself about this when you are answering these questions. Understand your goals. What are your goals, and how are those goals aligned with what you're passionate about? And how can you bring purpose into your life? Are these goals aligning with your purpose? And it's really everything has to be aligned with one another for that you can actually see it through to build a social enterprise. So now that we understand why the why is so important in social entrepreneurship and how it is the driving force behind social entrepreneurship, now we need to understand what is social entrepreneurship and how does that really differ from traditional businesses or nonprofits, charities, and foundations. So in the next slide, we're going to understand what is really the distinguishing factor. How are social entrepreneurs different from our for-profit cousins who are all about the bottom line and making sure their shareholders are getting a maximum return? Is our value proposition. Our value proposition has to be fundamentally clear for our customers and our beneficiaries. And our value proposition really stems from our why, because that is the driving force behind our venture. And so the why is everything. And the why leads to your vision proposition, which then leads to your revenue streams. So understanding that and having a clear, precise value proposition on what products and services that you can offer to your customers or your beneficiaries to the success of your company. On the next slide, we are going to look at a social enterprise business model canvas. Here is the business model canvas for social enterprises. And as you see, the core value offering, what is your value proposition that is going to solve the social problem, right? And the social problem stems from your why. The value proposition stems from your why. All of these things are mission driven, right? And so when you look at your value proposition and the products and services that you're going to be offering your customer or your beneficiary, right? And please keep in mind that the beneficiary and the customer may or may not be the same, right? One is a paying customer, right? And the other is only maybe the end user, only receiving and not paying you. And those are two things that you really need to keep in mind when you are building a social enterprise. Who is the customer? Because, for instance, She Farm's customer are MFIs, input suppliers, other stakeholders. They are not the farmers. The farmers are the beneficiaries. They are only receiving the product and services that I provide. So understanding that is very important in doing this business model canvas, because you're going to have you actually need to make two different business model canvases, right? One for your beneficiaries and one for your customer. And more so, it's going to be an evolving business model canvas anyway, that you're constantly redoing it, as you are learning who your customers are and who are your beneficiaries. So keep in mind that this all leads to the revenue streams, right? And the revenue streams is from the products and services. And how can you monetize this for the customer or for the beneficiaries? And in some instances, both are paying. In some instances, only the customers are paying. So definitely understand who these two parties are. And that's fundamental for the continued growth and sustainability of your company. Here are some words that define social entrepreneurship for me. And really, it's about people, planet, and profit. Like, how do we do all things together and still create a sustainable livelihood for everyone? How do we all profit from this? And this is not just on an individual base, but on really as a we base, a community base. And that what my business is doing is for the betterment of you and society, not just for the end goal of my profits, of my bottom line. And so that's one of the other things that is fundamentally different about social entrepreneurship, because when you talk about nonprofits and charities, they're not revenue generated, right? So this is based on donations and everything, and which makes it difficult for them to be sustainable. And then when you have the traditional businesses, they are all about their bottom line, all about making sure they're satisfying their shareholders and all other investors. So social entrepreneurship is that nice middle ground that you can do both. And why not? Because we all have to share this planet together, right? There's no plan B unless I'm not aware of it, And so how do we make it better for all of us? And that's really what I find very special about social entrepreneurship, because we can do both. Social entrepreneurs are system disruptors. The system is not working for everyone. The system is actually working as is intended to. And this is why social entrepreneurship is thriving currently, because of the fact that people are no longer happy with status quo. And with social entrepreneurship, we are really trying to disrupt the system in a way to change behavior. And that is part of the driving force for us. How do we change people's behavior? How do we do business differently? How do we change business everyday life? What do we need to do differently so that everybody in the system is benefiting and it's not just for a small percentage? So now that you know what social entrepreneurship is and what is your why, now we need to understand how to start a social enterprise. And what are the different formats that you can have to have a social enterprise? And really, it's all about having a hybrid solution, which we will discuss in the next slide. Hybrid solutions really are about people, planet, profit. How do we tackle these issues, but we can still have a return on investment, we can still be sustainable, and we can still do good in the communities? So that is essentially what a hybrid solution is, right? And so as you see in this graph, this diagram, you will see that a hybrid solution is both, right? It's a unified solution. It's taking a bit from traditional business models and a little bit of from nonprofits, and it's combining it to be one solution. And that's the unique part about social entrepreneurship because of this hybrid solution. So here is a diagram on hybrid investment strategies. So in the very beginning, when you're starting your social enterprise and you're in the seed capital, you're in a high risk, right, for investment. And this is regardless if you are a traditional business or a social enterprise. When you're starting out, you're considered high risk regardless. But with a social enterprise, and you have a hybrid solution as a business model, um, you have access to certain grants, certain subsidies, social investors, foundations, business competitions, specifically for climate or for social problems. So there are these things for seed capital. Then when you're starting and to be in the startup phase, then you're still semi in the high risk, but now you're more in the middle ground, and you have your angel investors, your social angel investors, your impact investors, your foundations, social venture funds, banks. Then you also have grants, social loans, and accelerators and incubation programs. So this is all part of the process, but it's all still stems from defining your mission that comes from your why. And as you expand in your and you're scaling, you have access to different things. You have access to equity from VCs now, corporations, government, and all of these things get you further along in the entrepreneur cycle, enterprise life cycle in general, right? So this life cycle is the life cycle for traditional and non-traditional business models, specifically for investment strategies. Uh, hybrid investment strategies. And then when you get to the later stages, you see how you have more banks, governments, and now at the later stages, you no longer have so many grants, right? These are really equity, and then these are also commercial loans, government loans. These are all because you are now producing revenue, right? So past once you start getting into early expansion phase, you are generating revenue for your company. And so you're no longer having grants, right? To do your R&D research, your market research, whatever the case may be. Those are typically no longer available for you when you get further along the life cycle. And this is pretty much how you would start a social enterprise. What are the things? And really starting a social enterprise really starts from yourself. It really starts from your why. That that is that is the fundamental key, is understanding your why and understanding your value proposition to your beneficiaries and to your customers. They may or may not be the same, and you really have to distinguish them. Um, and sometimes it's difficult to distinguish them because you may have multiple customers or multiple beneficiaries, but you really, from that, if you have so many beneficiaries or potential customers, who's the lowest hanging fruit? Whose pain can you solve immediately? And that goes back to your value proposition. That goes back to your problem and solution. So understanding the business model canvas, understanding your impact, and understanding your value proposition will definitely help you uh, bring that value into revenue and how you link the two. So yeah, and then understanding how these phases all contribute to your why and how you can continue growing your social enterprise. Thank you for joining this session on social entrepreneurship. I am Tiambi Sims, and if you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me. Have a great day. Bye.